if you've been following my channel, then you'll know that I created a video on the world building of the Soul Society, and the premise of that video was that a lot of people believe that Bleach has no world building. In that first video, we covered the areas of the Soul Society, as well as the purposes of each of the divisions of the Gote 13. So now in this video, I want to talk about the realm of the Hollows, the world that Aizen had taken over after defecting from the Soul Society with Gin and Tozen. In this video, we're going to be talking about everything that we know about Hueco Mundo, including how this world actually works, in terms of its leadership, how we get to Hueco Mundo, where it is actually located in the world of Bleach, and the military divisions within Hueco Mundo that Aizen establishes. So I can't wait to talk about a world that is often dubbed by fans as a barren wasteland. Hopefully with this video you'll know more about the smaller details that Kubo had implemented within the story in order to make Hueco Mundo feel like the perfect home for Hollows. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. The world of Hueco Mundo debuts within the manga in chapter 244, whereas in the anime we actually get to see Hueco Mundo from episode 1, and this is through very obscure and vague imagery, as we see a desert-like landscape, and we can only assume that this is where the Hollows are originating from. Translated from Spanish, Hueco Mundo literally means hollow world. Through the story, we quickly learn that Hueco Mundo is the home for the Hollows and Arrancars. It is a separate realm from the human world and the Soul Society, and it exists between these two worlds. Now, as you know, the human world and the Soul Society are connected through the Dangai. Hueco Mundo, however, is separated from the Dangai, and thus to travel to Hueco Mundo, an individual must open up a Garganta, which literally causes a rip in the fabric of space and time. It is a portal that typically allows Hollows and Arrancars to travel between dimensions. Although you can use a Garganta to travel between the human world, the Soul Society and Hueco Mundo, its main purpose is to connect Hueco Mundo to the other realms, even including the Dangai. The Garganta appears several times within the story and through several different means, the first of which is a Kumon, which is an air gate. It is a distortion within space and time caused by Gillians when they desire to travel to the human world, and we see an example of this in chapter 45. Another method to access a Garganta is demonstrated by Urahara in chapter 240. He utilizes a Kido spell called Keikai Gi. This spell creates a Garganta by connecting the space tying the human world and Hueco Mundo together. The portal is generated between two very large wooden posts that appear to be sticking out of two large rock formations. Urahara had used this spell in the series to facilitate the travel of Ichigo and the others to Hueco Mundo in order to rescue Orihime. The Arrancar and typically the Espada have their own technique to create a Garganta, which they demonstrate through their traveling between the different realms. This ability is called Descorrer. An Espada leveled Arrancar is easily able to create these portals. The Garganta that are created through this method are far more stable than those produced by Gillians. It's definitely a very stylish way to travel, as the Garganta usually close around the Espada before opening back up at their destination. And lastly, in chapter 380 we learned that Mayuri had found a device within Hueco Mundo that had allowed him to create a Garganta. Both him and Nemu had to work together in order to open this portal, and they were successful nonetheless. Garganta in Spanish means throat, while in Japanese it means black cavity. This black void-like portal perfectly complements the realm of Hueco Mundo. The black sky that covers the world of Hueco Mundo reflects light from an inverted crescent moon onto the white desert that encompasses the entire landscape of this world. Also dotted around the desert are these dead tree-like objects, which are not entirely plants, but are rather crystalline minerals in the shape of trees. Hueco Mundo is a non-stop white desert. Some people believe that Hueco Mundo is parallel to the human world, like a shadow realm. This is because of the moon of Hueco Mundo being in a opposite lunar cycle to that of the human world. This desert is void of any bodies of water, as well as being covered by multiple dunes that are littered with boulders. An important point about Hueco Mundo is that just like the Soul Society, its atmosphere has a very high concentration of reishi, so thus Hollows that reside within Hueco Mundo are able to have a constant source of nourishment without having to consume human souls. Now you're probably asking yourself that if Hueco Mundo is the world of the Hollows, then why is the landscape so barren? Why don't we ever see any Hollows? And this is because Hollows typically live below the surface of the desert, or in structures within Hueco Mundo that can provide them shelter. Shinigami are taught that all levels and types of Hollows reside within Hueco Mundo, regardless of power or size. This world is a lawless realm with no governing body, and the rule of Hueco Mundo is determined by the strongest. Under normal circumstances, years, Hueco Mundo isn't ruled by any organization, but when Aizen had been its ruler, it had resulted in the formation of Hueco Mundo's very own military division. The group at the lowest level of Aizen's military are the Exikias. They are responsible for getting rid of any intruders within Aizen's fortress Los Noches. In the Bleach character data book Masked, we also see them recover battle information from Arrancar that were defeated by Ichigo. Next up the hierarchy are Fracción, who work under the Espada, and within the Bleach story we are made familiar with Grimja's Fracción. There isn't a limit as to how many Fracción can work under one particular Espada. Next we have the Privaron Espada. They are Arrancars who were stripped of their Espada rank and given a new 3-digit ranking, with Dordoni ranking at 103, Seruchi ranking at 105, and Gantenbein ranking at 107th. They're demoted for one of two reasons, either because they are no longer useful to Aizen or because they have lost their strength. In chapter 254, we have Dordoni state that the naturally created Espada were rendered useless after Aizen had started to artificially create Arrancar which were suitable for his own very high standards, which you can assume had resulted in Aizen's highest branch of his military, the Espada. 10 of the most powerful Arrancar fall into this category, and they are ranked 0 to 9, and this is based upon their combat ability. Their ranking within the Espada is also tattooed onto their bodies. They are Hollow Shinigami hybrids, who make up the bulk of Aizen's military that go up against the Gote 13 during his war. So now that we know a bit more about the inhabitants of Hueco Mundo, let's talk about the locations of interest within this area that are mentioned in the manga. The first of course is Los Noches, which are a series of several buildings surrounded by a large dome. This fortress, located within the center of Hueco Mundo, was previously ruled by the Espada Barragan, that is until the arrival of Aizen, who had forced him to relinquish his throne. From Spanish, Los Noches translates into the Nights. Within this fortress there are several areas similar to the Serete within the Soul Society, and in terms of the entrance of this fortress, there are several doorways leading into the entrance of Los Noches, each one with a different destination. As we see Ichigo and the others split up and take different forked paths, we know that after passing the entrance, an individual will enter into the area of one of the Privaron Espada. Now deeper within Los Noches are the palaces of the Espada. Now within the manga we actually get to see 3 of the Espada's rooms, the first being Zomari's meditation room, the second being Stark's resting room, and lastly in chapter 282 we get to see Tia Haribel's palace. We are given more context into the palaces and rooms of the Espada within the anime, as the anime shows us Nelyel's former room, as well as Aranyero's palace and Xyle Aporo's lab. In chapter 314 we learn that Aizen's rooms are located in the 5th tower of Los Noches, and he has 2 throne rooms, the first being shown to us in chapter 240 when Orihime is first brought into Los Noches, and we see Aizen's 2nd throne room in chapter 255. In addition to this, Tozen and Gin appear to have their own quarters, with Tozen having his very own control room being shown to us in chapter 250, and the control room of Genichimaru being revealed in chapter 264. And just a couple more areas of interest that we see within the story. In chapter 241 we see Orihime's holding cell where she is kept prisoner, and lastly the most iconic room within Los Noches, which is of course the Espada's meeting room, which is revealed to us in chapter 244. In addition to Los Noches, there is another notable location within Hueco Mundo, and this is the Forest of the Menos. We get to learn more information about this area from episode 147, as we learn that this is the area below the desert of Hueco Mundo, and it is where hollows typically reside. From the 29th volume of Bleach, we learned that the Forest of Menos was supposed to be included within the manga, but had to be cut because of time constraints. In addition to this, a character that appears within the anime was also supposed to appear within the manga, the character of Ashiro Kano, who is a Shinigami that is trapped within Hueco Mundo, and if you want to know more about him then check out episode 147. The last notable location within Hueco Mundo are the Negal ruins. This is an area that we see during the 1000-year Blood War arc, and this is where Urahara sets up a temporary headquarters in order to study the Quincy. Now if you saw my video on the world building of the Soul Society arc, then you'll know that I mentioned that Kubo had incorporated the Buddhist concept of samsara into his work, and I discussed how the different realms of the samsara fit into the realms that exist within Bleach. Now when it came to Hueco Mundo, I described Hueco Mundo as the hungry ghost realm. When an individual is reborn into the hungry ghost realm from the cycle of samsara, they are described as being very possessive, and they have desire which was cultivated in a previous life. From this description alone, you can see that hollows fit into this description, as they hold on to their past lives, thus preventing them from moving on to the soul society, as a hollow hole appears within the center of their heart, which ends up transforming them into a hollow. The inhabitants of the hungry ghost realm are constantly hungry and thirsty. They can never satiate their appetites, which is completely in line with hollows, who have a thirst for human spirits. Hungry ghosts are described within Buddhism as beings whose desires torment them. They are unable to ever satisfy themselves no matter how much they eat or drink. And as we know, this is true for the hollows. No matter how many souls that they devour, or how much reishi that they absorb within Hueco Mundo, it will not bring them happiness, unless they are cut down by the zanpakuto of a shinigami, thus destroying the hollow and sending the soul to the soul society. To wrap up, the world of Hueco Mundo is also mentioned within the light novels of Bleach, in particular Can't Be Your Own World, as we get to see within that light novel, and within the 1000 Year Blood War arc, that the new ruler of Hueco Mundo is Tia Haribel, although she is not imposing her will onto others like Aizen had been doing. Instead, she appears to be maintaining the natural order within that realm. And lastly, Hueco Mundo is also seen within Ulquiorra's backstory, where we get to see a lot more of the underground world of Hueco Mundo, where the different classes of hollows reside. So now, after having discussed everything that we know about Hueco Mundo, what are your thoughts? What do you think about the hollow world that was once ruled by Aizen, that was the home of the most powerful Arrancar, and an area that had hosted a series of epic battles, including the final battles between Ichigo and Grimmjow, as well as the final battle between Ulquiorra and Ichigo? Did you learn anything new about Hueco Mundo, or was there anything that I failed to mention? Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'd love to hear your suggestions for any future Bleach topics that you want me to cover. I have a lot of fun diving deep into the world of Bleach and trying to understand the subtlety and nuance of Kubo's storytelling, so I'd be more than happy to create more content like this. And finally, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach Explained video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.